Workplace safety. Everyone preaches it, but what's the big deal? On this episode of Driven Too Far, we're taking a deep dive into safety programs and making it pay off for you. Hello, I'm Andrew Winkler with Chief Carriers, and this is Driven Too Far, the truth about trucking, a podcast that helps over-the-road truck drivers balance career and family. Hey, welcome back to this episode of Driven Too Far. Today we have a special guest with us. Brett Kleier is the safety manager at Chief Carriers. Brett, welcome back to the show. You've been on before.
Yeah, thanks.
Today we're talking about safety, obviously, and rewarding safe driving. So we're going to talk a little bit about some of the safety programs out there and why they're so critical. So, first of all, Brett, let's just start off and say, what is the big deal with safety? If I'm kind of sitting in the driver's seat, I hear about safety all the time from my safety director, my safety manager, whatever that looks like. But why do they make such a big deal out of safety? I mean, come on, right?
I mean, safety is so huge to this industry. I mean, one little mishap and it's public knowledge. I mean, everywhere, all over the country, social media blows things up. And, you're driving a great big billboard that's got your company's name plastered all over it. It's your reputation. It's just, there's a huge economic impact as well as, what it does to your career personally and the image of a company. So, safety's just, it needs to be the forefront of what they're doing.
Well, it's probably a great point because you think about the size of the vehicles you guys and gals are out there operating every day. And when you hit something or something hits you, it affects a lot of things, right? I mean, you're talking about much smaller vehicles, sometimes multiple vehicles, multiple people in the cars. It's never a good thing when, an 18-wheeler gets involved in any kind of mishap or accident out on the road.
Yeah, I mean, you got to realize for people who aren't in the industry, watching this and seeing this, the stopping distance to stop 80,000 pounds compared to stopping a pickup or a SUV or even a car, the few those are still on the road today, it's multiple times, not only time, but distance, that weight, just momentum. And, there is no, oops, it's a fender bender. I mean, if a semi is involved, you're talking multiple thousands of dollars of damage automatically.
Right. That loaded truck weighs 20 times as much as your typical car does. And it just happened to me on the way to the studio this morning. I was just turning the corner down here and it was a straight truck. It wasn't a 18-wheeler, but some dude just whipped right in front of him at a red light and then slammed on his brakes. And fortunately the truck missed him, but man, it was close. And I just kind of looked over that guy. I'm like, what an idiot. It's just, he didn't care, like not a care in the world. Didn't realize what he did, but I guarantee that truck driver's heart probably skipped a beat.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's that driver's livelihood. I mean, right there, that's everything has to flash in front of their face when somebody does that. And unfortunately, a lot of it is uneducation to the general public, that they just don't realize, on top of some of them just don't plain care. The stopping distance and the effects that cutting off an 18-wheeler or, like you said, a straight truck in that situation, what that causes.
Well, I don't know what the big deal is because all safety programs are created equal, right? All truck lines run the same safety stuff.
I wish that was the case. I mean, it would make my job a whole lot easier. It would make a lot of other people's jobs easier, but unfortunately, no, there's a big spectrum of difference between what is a on paper safe company, culture safe company, and just flat out safe company to work for.
So if I'm a driver out there, maybe I'm already working, maybe I'm somebody just getting into the industry and I'm going to start my search for my first company. Why should I care as a driver about a carrier's safety record?
Well, it's also a lot with their reputation, right? So if you go on, there's public searches, you can look up their safer, you can look up their CSA scores to see if they're above average, below average, where they're at there to get a good feel of what's happening. But if a company's safety scores are elevated, that's going to raise them getting pulled over more frequently at scales, more frequent inspections, and just more detail focused on when they are pulled over versus somebody who has a good track record, say with a DOT, CSA scores, and is publicly out there speaking about safety, standing up for safety, lives their kind of core value of safety.
Right.
Those companies, they just seem to rise above in a lot of different cases. And again, for the driver standpoint, you're not going to get probably scrutinized as tough and as hard just because you're driving for a reputable company.
I'm worried about the young people or new people coming into the industry and stuff. And I think of, how they probably go through the school process in 6 to 8 weeks, whatever that looks like. They come out with their Class A CDL, and they probably have had multiple companies come in and talk to them, try to recruit them a little bit. For the most part, I'm going to say, the big names in the industry, and those are easy to find and figure out kind of where their safety records are. There's certain ones that kind of get made fun of in the industry, but beyond the jokes, make sure you check out their actual safety records, because I think one of the things that happens is they're so large and run so many vehicles that you see their name more often than you do the little guys. But one of the things I know when we bring students in to our facility and we talk to them a little bit, a lot of times what the schools don't screen for is what is your personal driving record before you started CDL class. So sometimes we run into some people that are maybe in their early 20s or something, little young and wild, coming out of high school, maybe have some black eyes or blemishes on their driving record, and they don't understand how that's going to affect them in their new career stuff. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, yeah, because for your average Joe out there, your insurance company, they look at your accidents and your driving history, and they usually look back like 3 years. But we're looking back 7 years. So, this goes back even further. And those little things that happen in your personal vehicle still affect how we rate you as a driver in a commercial vehicle. Because if you are reckless or speed a lot in your own personal vehicle, that's a tendency, that's a habit. You're going to, even if you don't start out that way, your habits are going to creep back in there. And that can drastically affect, if there's something, obviously, if you're inexperienced, you don't want those other negatives to bar you from getting into the industry.
So let me ask you this. You just mentioned something there. When I put in an application to a carrier and I'm trying to go to work for them, is it just you as the carrier looking at my background, or did you say something about the insurance company maybe looking into your background as well?
Yeah, there's certain guidelines depending on the company. Some companies are self-insured up to X, and some aren't. Smaller companies, a lot of times they're directly working with their insurance provider, and their insurance provider gives them guidelines like, maybe they have to be 25, because that was a thing for a long time.
Right.
No moving violations in the last 6 months for a new one, no moving violations the last year, and then they weight everything from there. So even as a trucking company, and we would want to hire you, we need a driver, we have an empty truck, but our hands could literally be tied by our insurance providers.
Yeah, and I know, like in our case, for sure, we're self-insured. So, but there's still guidelines and rules with the rest of the captive members that are in there. But I just keep thinking about nobody's telling these people that are coming into the industry. And from our point of view, if you're a student brand new coming into the industry, you better have a pretty squeaky clean record in order for us to consider you, because you're a larger risk. You don't have the experience, that the other people do that were 2, 5, 10 years type thing. So it's a big challenge to hire new people into the industry sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. We use technology as much as we can and rank drivers based on their driving history and these types of things. And it kind of gives us a risk factor, so to speak, how risky an employee could be. Obviously, you come in, it doesn't matter if you come in for us, new off the street or been driving for a few years, you're still going to have a higher risk scale just because we need to learn your habits. We need to learn some things about you. And I think most companies weigh heavily on that too when it's somebody that they have no personal knowledge of their driving history, and that you just have to go off paper.
One of the interesting things too, you said is, if you got a little bit of history in your personal vehicle before you get into your CDL and stuff, they're looking for patterns. You're looking for patterns as a safety professional. Obviously, insurance people are too, because they're taking on that risk. And if I remember, this is a long time ago, by the way, when I drove, for a while there, you're scared as a solo driver. You just went solo. You got released from your trainer, taking out the truck for the first time. There's a time frame there where you're just kind of nervous and you're getting the feel of everything, and this massive vehicle you're in charge of now and stuff. But at some point, you become more comfortable. And I think that's almost the more dangerous time for younger drivers, because all of a sudden you feel like you're in control of this thing and you're in this huge rig, right? 80,000 pounds. And all of a sudden you kind of start to feel bulletproof, if you will. And I think that's where a lot of, it's not an age issue, but more of an experience issue for drivers. There's a certain point where you're going to feel like, oh man, nothing can hurt me up here and I can drive faster, a little more aggressively, but nothing could be farther from the truth.
Yeah, I mean, I see it. We can bring in new hires. Typically, in the first 6 months of being employed, will outperform some of our veteran drivers on little things. But it's the little things that matter. But they're paying attention to those little details. They want to make a good impression. They want to, keep their employment. Don't want to cause anything wrong. Not saying that veteran drivers don't, but like you said, there's a little bit of complacency maybe that falls in there, that I've been doing this for 30 years. I know what I'm doing. And Unfortunately, if you don't spend time talking to those veteran drivers as much as you talk to the new drivers, that complacency is going to creep in and get you, because they're going to overlook something.
That is exactly right. And you just teed that up just right to talk about the complacency issue. And as a safety professional, that's your job. You've got drivers with not much experience, and you've probably got drivers in your fleet with 30 years experience or maybe even more. But how do you set safety programs and a culture that talks to all of them or speaks to all of them? Because you've got a lot of different personalities and experience levels that you've got to hit there.
I mean, I feel you have to have enough buy-in from the experience, the older ones, however you want to call it. That's not just all the safety guys just giving lip service of this stuff that I've heard 500 times over. And it takes time. And if you want to be successful in the industry, I say you have to take time to get to know some of these guys. And, some of them are a real tough egg to crack, because let's face it, safety hasn't had the greatest image, we'll say, and in the industry. The safety guy is the guy you always want to avoid. And if I have to go talk to safety guy, I'm in trouble, and that type of thing. And I have tried very hard over the last 3 years or whatever that I've been in safety here to make sure that part of the culture has changed. It's a very open door, easy to discuss, because then when it is a tough decision or a tough conversation, I should say, we can usually have it and not get it escalated and blown out of proportion. And I think that helps, because once those seasoned 10-year drivers are on board, the ones in the middle kind of follow suit, and the new drivers, of course, are following suit, because you just are hiring them on. And I think you have to kind of start with the older group to get the full buy-in.
Well, talk about that a little bit. Talk about your progression with maybe your safety culture at Chief. Where did you start, and where is it today? And I know you have developed a couple different safety programs, and the first one's called a Red Hat program. Tell us about that.
Yeah, the Red Hat program, it was basically, it came out of a conversation that 80% of the fleet is probably doing things right, but not being recognized for it. You always have this is my conversation. This is how I look at it. You got your top 10% that no matter what, they kind of are always the good guys doing things right. You got your bottom 10% that you're spending a ton of time coaching on.
Always coaching.
And then you got the middle of your fleet that is doing things right, probably 90% of the time, if not more, but they unfortunately tend to get overlooked because you're praising the best and coaching the worst, and the middle kind of get left somewhere out. So the Red Hat program was designed that just a little bit of recognition. If you're seen specifically with us, doing a safety sensitive function, so you could be tying a load down, you could be tarping, you could just be hooking up to a load and having all your PPE on and just doing all those little things, right? Anybody can recognize you in the act of doing that and give you a red, or recommend you, I should say, for a red hard hat. Or I guess we went the ball cap, bump cap route also but you get a red hat just to distinguish you a little bit different. Everybody else, when they start, gets a white hard hat. So it sets you apart a little bit, like, hey, you've been recognized. The whole fleet understands what this is. The office, the shop. So if you see a guy walking around with a red hard hat, they have been recognized, that they are doing things safe.
So it's a little bit of a status symbol. It sounds like you earn that red hat. All of a sudden, you've got something that stands out amongst the crowd, and the drivers understand. But the other thing I heard you just say, I thought it was really interesting, because you said anybody could recognize or recommend a driver for the red hard hat. So you figured out a way to make safety's everybody's issue, right? Not just the safety department or the safety director. It sounds like you have a culture where maybe dispatch, maintenance type people get involved in the day-to-day safety of the trucks and the drivers. So it is truly a team sport.
Yeah. And it helps, we have a unified, I would say, leadership group too, that focuses on safety. But yeah, it goes down to your load planner, your dispatcher, a tech out in the shop. I've had them come and say, hey, so-and-so saw them securing their load. They had all their stuff on. Do they have a red hard hat yet? And so we get one, and then we make sure that we post it on our, our social pages and give them recognition, get a picture with them, make a big deal out of it, because it is a big deal. It's not just here's a hard hat. No, you are seen doing something right. You should get credit for that. And honestly, we have 45 drivers with a red hard hat out of the 72 that we have.
Okay. So I need you to level with me. Every trucking company talks about safety, right? Safety is the number one priority. That's not really the way it is it?
It's the way it should be. If it's not,
well, how do you get that? How do you get people to actually live, eat, and breathe safety, and make it not just a priority, but maybe more of a value at your company?
Well, you can't just talk it. You have to also show it. I mean, there's, I don't do it enough, I'll be quite honest. But there's days that I go out in the securement bay and I'm geared up in PPE and helping these guys and showing them also. I mean, most all of us that go outside at the shop, everything, we all have some sort of steel toe boots on or something. I mean, just little things. And I sit in the office majority of the time, but I still wear them. It's those little things like that, and just consistent messaging, and constant, because you got to hear something 7 times to hear it the first time.
Right.
It takes a while. It's nothing that you're going to snap your fingers and it's going to happen overnight. I mean, it took months for me to get, I would say, the first veteran driver to be like, this guy might know what he's talking about. It takes a while.
But I mean, if you're being honest, it's just you and I here, so nobody else is listening. Don't worry about it. But you're talking safety all the time. That's preaching it. That's what you do. But there's a dispatcher in there, right? In the next room over, probably telling a driver, just sneak it on through, or don't worry about the overweight or stuff like that. I mean, that stuff goes on at your company, right? What do you mean no? What do you mean no?
No, it doesn't. No. I will have them potentially come in and ask me, hey, can we do this? Is this okay? But I won't have them telling a driver to, just do this. Don't worry. Don't go around Brett or whatever. I mean, I take those calls all night, all week, all weekend from dispatch, even the ones that are on call, because that's usually when it happens. Somebody that's on call, not with the load that they have, normal, and they'll call me and ask me questions. And can I do this? Can we do this? He's this much overweight. Does he have to go back to the shipper, or do they have to move stuff? And it's not like they don't have the authority or the ability to make that call, but I've told them all, if you're in doubt, I'm here, and I just made myself available. So I think they feel comfortable coming, even the dispatchers, the office staff coming to me and asking me those questions. I mean, our operations manager sometimes will come in and be like, hey, can we do this? And no, or yes, and away we go.
So it sounds like you've made it very clear in your organization that you don't compromise safety for any reason at any level. Does that sound right?
Yeah, because once you start, where do you stop? And everything you work for will just unravel. It only takes one time, and who knows? We might all not have a job. I mean, that's how critical safety is.
Yeah, and that's where it's gotten these days. And you and I have been in the industry long enough now that, back in the day, we were running paper and multiple logbooks, and we know all those things, right? And safety wasn't top of mind. And whether you like what the government's done with e-logs and just different stuff and all of our safety technology in the trucks and stuff, it has absolutely changed the game. You just don't do those things anymore. Now, there may be some carriers out there running a couple trucks here and there, but you know what? I can usually pick out those carriers because I pass them on the interstate. In fact, I passed one this morning coming down. The guy, you could tell he had jackknifed the truck at some point because the sleeper was caved in, and then part of his driver left fender's just shaking in the wind, and the fiberglass is broke. And it's those kind of guys that, man, get me away from them. Anybody that would operate a truck in that condition, not only do I not want to be next to them, I don't want anything to do with a company or carrier like that. And I hope shippers would recognize that as well.
Yeah, I mean, everybody needs to pay attention to those things. Yes, a truck is expensive to maintain and expensive to fix and everything else, but that's even more reason to be safe and not get yourself in a situation to have those things. Do accidents happen? Yes, that's why they're called accidents. But hopefully you're working for a reputable enough company that prioritizes getting that equipment fixed right away and not trying to make an extra few dollars and run it, and God only knows what happens.
So you talked about your Red Hat program. I know that's evolved over time and stuff, and it's kind of morphed into something even bigger than that. Tell us a little bit about your Safety 360 program, what that's all about. Well,
Safety 360, again, focusing on that middle 80%. That's kind of been my thing. It is a way to recognize drivers and incentivize them financially for keeping and maintaining low scores, CSA scores, being accident incident free, not having any sort of claim type of issues, and also attending, in my case, 10 out of 12 monthly safety meetings. Those are all requirements. Plus they do a biannual training, which is like January and July. It's something above and beyond their monthly training, more specific to this group of individuals. Sometimes it's leadership training. Sometimes it's extra type of a securement training. I try to switch it up, some hands-on, some book, because these individuals, I consider them leaders. They're ones that have signed a commitment that, yes, I'm going to do this stuff. I'm going to help the rest of the fleet, other carriers, and show them this is the way to do things. And so that I feel like they needed some leadership training also, because let's face it, everybody's different, and we could all use a little bit of how to talk to people on certain things or coach people. And then there's that extra securement training, and these individuals have really taken a grasp of it. And, when they do that biannual training there and they complete everything and they're still incident accident free and meet all those general requirements, then there's a financial incentive. And I chose to do it to a base pay rate because that's the way it's fair. I told the guys, I give the example, if you're on 2,000 miles a week and this other guy rides 3,000 miles a week, I give you both $100 bill. What means more? The guy that went, the lower mile driver probably means a little bit more. Right. So if I give it to you at a base pay, then you are in control of how much that incentive gets you.
Right. So it's about rewarding safe behavior, and
yes,
it's focused on the drivers that really do put an effort forward every day and focus on their safety and stuff. I like that approach. I really appreciate that, and glad you guys do that. Now, I think I also heard you say something about other carriers. It's like, what did you mean by other carriers in your safety programs? Are you is this something you collaborate with other carriers with, or what are you talking about there?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say collaborate. There's a group of us safety professionals in Nebraska that bounce some ideas off each other. We're pretty good about no secrets in safety. I mean, obviously there's some confidential, specific to an accident or incident type of things that you can't share with anybody. But the general thing, it's always good to learn through your screw ups, maybe. I tend to learn a lot through those.
Others screw
or
ups,
others, right? So we share this information pretty freely, and it did help kind of guide some of the development of the Safety 360 program for us specifically. And I know there's a handful of them that have talked about, well, how do you do this and why do you incentivize that? And we bounce some ideas off each other, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who you work for. If you're in safety, safety's universal.
Man, I wish more people felt like that, because there's certainly quite a few of them out on the road that it doesn't appear they live like that anyway. But that's fantastic. So it sounds like you've built a great safety culture there at Chief Carriers over the last few years. So congratulations on that. If I'm a driver, and whether I'm experienced, not experienced, I'm sure they can figure out how to find Chief Carriers, but what about other carriers? How would I know as a driver how much that carrier cares about safety and cares about me?
Man, social media. And I'm not talking about Wild Dog Trucker or anything like that. I'm talking about get on the carrier's social media. Yeah. Look at what they put out there. Is all their posts about new driver, new driver, new driver? Or is there any culture posts? Can you see things? You can pick up a lot of stuff from that. Obviously, like I mentioned earlier, SAFER scores, CSA scores, look into all that. You cannot over research. Take the time, talk to the recruiter, ask recruiter tough questions. I mean, ask them, well, what are your scores and why? Where is it trending? And those types of things. They might not know, but they should be able to get you those answers. And if they can't answer those types of things, then I would say that's a red flag.
Yeah. So it's interesting when you're saying that. I was kind of thinking to myself, when you're applying for a job, that needs to be a two-way interview, right? The company's
Absolutely.
Interviewing you as a driver, make sure that you fit, but it also needs to go the other way, where you're interviewing the company to make sure that's somebody I want to be associated with, and that's somebody that's going to make sure they pay me on time and they're going to take care of me and my family from a safety perspective as well. So, don't rush into making knee-jerk reactions and jump from this carrier to that carrier. Take your time if you're going to make a move and really do the research. I think that's fantastic advice.
Yeah, because honestly, when we're hiring, that's one thing I look at too. How many jobs have you had in the last 10 years? Okay, well, were there 10 different carriers? Were there 15 different jobs? Was there 2? I guarantee the guy with 2 jobs is going to get looked at harder than the person with 15.
Yeah, you don't want the guy with multiple jobs. That's not.
No, because you're just going to get him there for a sign-on bonus, a something or other. You know what I mean? When those were a big thing, people were hopping jobs all over the place. I see less and less of that now too.
Yeah. He's only sticking around long enough till the next bonus is offered or something happens, goes sideways on him, then he's off and running again. But hey, I just want to thank you for joining me today. This was a fantastic conversation. Sounds like you guys have put a great safety program together there at Chief Carrier. So congratulations on all your success.
Well, thanks. I hope to continue it long into the future here.
All right. Thanks, Brett. Take care.
You bet.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Driven Too Far. If you're looking to drive for a carrier that truly values safety and rewards you for it, check us out at chiefcarriers.com.